So here are some of the benefits of member engagement. And obviously, this isn't the totality of why we should or what people get out of being an engaged member of Toastmasters. But I think these are worth mentioning. If you have any others, please feel free to drop them in the chat and also to vocalize those as well. So some of the benefits of member engagement includes affording our audience an opportunity to listen and learn. Member engagement is not always about being the speaker. You can also actively listen. You can actively learn by observation in addition to experience. So we have to keep those things in mind. This is a two-way street. Everyone in a Toastmasters meeting has the opportunity to learn and to grow and to be engaged. It also enables members, and I think this was covered in David's presentation, to singularly fill club officer roles. How many of you have had 2 roles or 3 roles at a meeting? I see some hands and I see some head nods. Of course, I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. And once in a while, okay. But when it becomes a chronic routine aspect of the club meeting, I don't know about you, so I won't put words in your mouth, but sometimes that discourages me from being enthusiastic about attending the Toastmasters meeting, because I know I'll have to take multiple roles, which means I'm dividing my attention. I'm not having the full benefit of focusing on a role and the skill that that role is helping to develop. So when you have a lot of members that are engaged in taking roles, then everyone has that opportunity to grow without being overtasked. It provides effective evaluations from varying perspectives when you have more people engaged in the process of giving evaluations. Even handwriting or sending an email that gives some additional feedback, even if you're not the designated evaluator, that level of engagement helps the speaker, because now they don't have one person's opinion. And I do believe that many of our evaluations are highly subjective, and that's not a bad thing. Even in a contest, when we have the rubric, it's still subjective to the person's way of receiving information and their connections to the topics. So encouraging the engagement gives members a more comprehensive view of how they're able to connect with the various audience members. It offers a variety of speeches. How many of you have heard a speech on a topic that you would have never, ever thought to engage upon or research, or frankly, you just didn't have an interest or were unaware? I absolutely love coming to Toastmasters because of the diversity. I call it the kaleidoscope of topics that I hear that also engages me. I want to know more. I want to learn. I can't wait to see or hear or experience what someone will talk about next. Of course, having engagement affords the opportunity for leadership, and leadership doesn't have to be for the whole year as a club officer. It could be just for the club meeting or for a specific event or a special event. So consider engaging people. I saw a question in the chat about how do we engage people who don't want to do things? Well, give them a job, give them a role, right? Play up to their experiences. If they're longtime Toastmasters, tell them we need your experience. Would you mind talking about XYZ topic? Would you give an educational topic or a workshop? Give them a role to help get them re-engaged. It also helps to make succession planning easier when you have people who are actively working in Toastmasters at the club level, especially when you are looking to solicit for nominations for your club officer roles in May. This helps you all to get a pipeline of people where you're not twisting arms, you're not coaxing people to go in and pushing people into these leadership roles, but they're doing it willingly because they understand the value and they also have the commitment. Engaged members are usually more committed to the success of the club and one another. And finally, engaged members are resources for membership building, also membership retention. Anything you can think of to add to this list, I'll be more than happy. And Darlene, I see your hand up. Please come off mute and comment.
Sorry about that. It was to your point last time about how many people had to do multiple polls. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. And Tahira?
Okay, so Rhonda, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. You and David are just amazing as really expounding on this area. So what I have found that has worked for me when people are in like a slump about coming up with speeches, sometimes when we're discussing and speaking, they don't realize the speech is in the conversation. So sometimes when we're just in general conversation, talking about, hey, how was your weekend? You know, just that general conversation, I would mention just getting ready to start the meeting. That's a good speech idea. So nudging in those areas always helps. Some people understand that kind of struggles in areas when putting speeches together. That would be a great speech idea. Hey, have you ever considered putting some more thoughts together and composing a speech on that? I just want to share that because that always works in my club. Even when people, they don't realize that they have speeches within speeches about different things. So I just wanted to share that.
Tahira, thank you for that, because that is so good. Not only speeches and speeches, but table topics. Have you heard someone speak almost ad nauseum, go well beyond the time limit? That could have been a speech. Or my grammarian report. My grammarian report is like 5 minutes. That's a speech. So again, look for those nuggets in people to give them some ideas where they may hit a slump. Very good. Thank you so much. So I want to take a pulse check. Let's see if I can successfully launch this poll. Again, I love being interactive with our presentation. So you all should be invited to respond to the poll. And let's see how you all have answered some of these questions. There's just 4 questions here, by the way. We'll just give it another 30 seconds or so. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. About 90% of you have participated. So let me just share the results. How do prospective members find your club? By and large, word of mouth is the predominant channel, which is absolutely great. There's nothing better than that personal experience, that storytelling, and that's a skill that we actually learn and practice here within Toastmasters. The website, very good, meetup.com. I'm not sure if this is the case for many of you, I guess for some of you, But meetup.com has been a constant drip. I don't want to say it's been a constant stream, but it provides a constant channel and connection between prospective members and guests and my club and several other clubs that I've talked to other members and officers at. So that's great. LinkedIn, we probably have an opportunity to do a little bit more with LinkedIn. So that's something that I'll look forward to. Other channels, Facebook, Instagram, absolutely. TikTok, that's a whole other story, and other, very good. What brings people to Toastmasters? Fear of public speaking, career advancement, change, pivot. Absolutely. So those can provide you all insights into how to market and advertise. If this is the lion's share of why people come in your marketing, your advertisements, you can certainly speak to people's fears and why they're seeking out Toastmasters in order to cast a wider net and bring in even more prospective members. Social networking, absolutely, and other. Why do people join your club in particular, the club culture? I'm not sure if many of you attended the club culture training session with Renee Ellison, but it was phenomenal. We do have the video posted on our YouTube channel. If you haven't had the opportunity to hear her speak on club culture, I would suggest you take the 45 minutes to do so. I think it will help to boost your awareness and how you move purposefully to develop that culture when you learn about the various aspects of it. Hospitality, warmly greeted, acknowledged. This is that moment of truth that we always talk about, that first impression that people have coming into your club, whether virtually or in person. So very good. Those are great pulse checks there. And then finally, why do members not renew? No time, limited availability to participate. We can't compete with people's time and how they allocate it. But things that we can do is if the meeting is perceived to be unorganized, we can change that. If pathway is too difficult, we can also elucidate how they can maximize the value and benefit of pathways. Because I've been a member for such a long time, I was so used to and accustomed to the manuals, and it took me a while to embrace pathways. But once I did, I saw the value. I love that it's been modernized and it's contemporary. How to create a social presence or a digital presence, how to create a podcast. Those are things that were not in the manuals that we have now. So when you play up to the contemporary nature of the curriculum, people may be able to make that connection and help make that connection for them. Virtual meetings not preferred, in person's not preferred. We can't do anything about that. We try to accommodate people. My club personally meets hybrid, 1 week in person, the following week it's virtual. So you can look for some creativity there. But I wanted to give you all a pulse check to get you to start thinking about ways to engage members. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are they experiencing? And how you can continue to feed their needs or meet their needs. And if there's some corrective action that needs to be taken, we have to be realistic about that as well. So the prospective member journey, at least from Toastmasters perspective, is based on 4 various phases. It's the awareness phase, evaluation, it's when the member joins, and after they join, do they get the support that they need? And let's go through these pretty quickly. I do want to respect the time, and I want to give some time for even more discussion and brainstorming. I think out of this session between what David presented and this session on engagement, I know you all, just like Tahira mentioned, have great ideas for engaging people. So let's get creative and share that. So I'm going to ask, even if you come off mute and articulate it, feel free to put it in the chat too, because if it's really good, I'll take the chat and make it some type of document that I can distribute around to everyone without having to encourage people to look at the entire video. Maybe I'll just add it to this presentation or me and David's presentation. So for awareness, prospective members obviously they come to Toastmasters because they are aware that they have maybe a deficit or they're looking to expound on a skill. So people come oftentimes because they don't like public speaking or they're fearful of it, or they get into a role at work where they know they'll have to do it more. So they need the practice and the coaching and the supportive environment. They actively are researching how to solve their problem. And we want Toastmasters to be a solution to the problem. We want to give them the feedback. We want to create the opportunity and the environment for them to to develop their skill. And then they are looking to see clear and understandable product offerings. They need to understand what's in it for them from Toastmasters. And when we think of Toastmasters, we think of it as a club that we join, but we do offer a product and a service. We offer the curriculum, which is what they get when they become a member. And then the service is the ongoing feedback, the supportive environment that the club culture actually provides. See how all of these things are commingled and connected? And feel free, again, if there's any comment, come off mute, but otherwise I'm going to ask if you would please go on mute. We're getting some background noise. The next is the evaluation phase. So in this phase, this is where members actually show up to your meeting as a one-time guest or first-time guest or recurring guest. And I tell my recurring guests when they come after maybe 2 or 3 times, I'll quip with them and say, we don't mind you dating us, but we will ask for a commitment after a certain amount of times. So that always gets a chuckle. But what I'm really stating is that I want to engage in a more long-term relationship with people, a connection with people, so they get the full benefits of Toastmasters. We allow our guests to speak at the end of the meeting. We give them a few minutes to announce themselves, tell what they thought about the meeting. But we also let them participate in table topics if they're so inclined. But we don't afford them the opportunity to give a speech or to be evaluated, because membership should have its benefits. And if we give away everything, then there's no impetus to become a member. I say that, but I've also seen some clubs that will allow a guest to give an icebreaker speech. Since it's very simple to give, they give it on their best subject themselves or their hobby or passion, but they use that as a way to get people hooked or baited into becoming a member. So the clubs will tell them, if you want to give speech number 2, you have to become a member. Eric, you have a comment?
Yes, I mean, for us, we use table topics. We do kind of restrict the speeches, even though the speeches are still the hardest thing to get actual paid members to do. But we try to keep that hidden behind the payment to join. Is, hey, you can start to actually work if this. But table topics, we have 2 people in the club that are really, really good at creative table topic methods. So we do a different facet of it probably every month. And that usually gets people latched on my surveys that I follow up with folks on. Say, hey, what made you really want to come back again? Well, the table topics made me nervous, but it was fun and it wasn't just talking. We do hands-on stuff and all. So I think that's a very good method as well.
Love it, Eric. Thank you so much. Herb, you have a comment? Herb, are you able to unmute? There you go.
If you go to a distinguished club, what happens is that usually they'll say, and I've had this happen a few times, we have to honor our own members first. Sometimes a club like Lower Bucks, they'll give you a chance to partake. But if you're a seasoned Toastmaster, you have to join unless the club is in Pearl. And that being the case, if you have like, let's say 5 or 6 people showing up, hey, they'll be glad to have you. But distinguished club, select, presidential, they usually have a mind of their own where members come first.
Yeah, it just depends. Again, it goes back to club culture. There are there may not be any hard, fast rules, but I am of the opinion that we should not give the full benefit to non-members. So if it's table topics, as Eric mentioned, I think that's perfectly okay. Occasionally, if you want to give a speaking slot as a way of getting people to join, and again, it depends on the type of club. Corporate clubs may be different than community clubs, which may be different than collegiate clubs. So whatever works for you, the goal is just to get people to be engaged, whether they're prospective members, new members, existing members, or inactive members, to help to reactivate their membership. Either way, prospective or members, they want to know that there's proof that you can deliver on your Toastmasters promise, on the Toastmasters benefits. And to me, the proof is generally in observing other members during the meeting, whether you are in a leadership role as a club officer, you're taking a meeting role, which is for that day only, perhaps, or as a speaker, right? Seeing someone's progress or hearing how exemplary they communicate may be the proof that I need that this is the right place for me. So keep that in mind as well. Once you get the member to join, prospective members need to know how do they commit? What's the commitment levels, right? We do explain to members or prospective members that we may take attendance, but you're not evaluated, you're not required to be at every meeting, but we do expect a level of commitment, a level of engagement. They need to know that what are the steps to join? How complicated are they? Do you have someone designated? Usually your VPM, but I've also seen the treasurer also talk to prospective members about joining since a payment is involved. So you want to make those aspects of joining very easy. You don't want to make those difficult or complicated for prospective members. Was there a hand up to Hera? Did I see your hand?
Yeah, I was writing notes as well to put in the chats. Also, what we find that works as well, we talked about adding value. Testimonials. We have a section in our newsletter where we allow some of our members to show the value in Toastmasters, where they have gotten a promotion because the training has worked from the evaluations. Also relating it back to real life, how people were able to communicate better effectively in their negotiation skills for raise or in their review. So things like that, making it realistic to everyday life. Testimonials.
Yeah, making it practical. It has to be applicable. And thank you too. That's good. Fantastic. So I'm glad we're in alignment. Once a member joins, some people feel like they're on an island. And that is the easiest way for people to disengage if they don't feel a connection. And some people don't like us being virtual. I've worked virtually since 2008. The world has caught up to what I do every day from my home office. And I feel just as connected virtually as I do going into an office. That's just because my personality isn't to be upfront in people's faces all the time. That's okay for me. Some people lament the fact that we are virtual and feel like we can't be connected. Absolutely, you can. So whether virtual or in person, you need to look for ways to keep people engaged and not to disengage. But one of the easiest ways is to not create that supportive environment. So how do you do that? How do members ask for help? What do you do to help them? Do you have a mentoring program? Do you provide new member orientation? So after today, if you don't, the answer should be yes, we do, because David showed us how to do that, what to cover in new member orientation. How do members know who to go to for help? Who are their resources? Demystify these things for people so that it makes it easier for them to stay connected to the club. Do we do pulse checks with our members? Do we check in and see how are things going? Haven't seen you at the meetings in a while, haven't heard you give a speech, you haven't taken a role, or you haven't taken Toastmaster of the Day. Be specific. Ask them to engage in aspects that you think they can benefit from. And then how do you know if they're satisfied? one telltale sign is that they keep coming back to meetings. That's just one, right? But that's not the only way. So I also heard Eric mention a survey, and I think that's great for prospective members, and that may be able to be applied to existing members as well. So according to Toastmaster, this is a pie chart that shows some of the goals of members. Apparently, they took a survey. I don't know the date on this information, but I just pulled it from some of their collateral. I thought this was worth sharing. So you see the biggest chunk of it is to build confidence for public speaking, and then to become a more effective speaker, improve presentations, improve leadership skills, professional goals, increase fluency. And I'm surprised that that's just at 4%, because we have a lot of non-native English speakers. And I know that this is a way for people to improve their command of the English language, build in social connections, etc. So take this pie chart, develop some programming around it to address each of these, especially the bigger slices, because you're capturing a wider audience. But don't forfeit the opportunity too to look at some of the smaller slices and make a connection for people, whether it's to motivate them, to prepare them for a speech that they have to give in the future, and to network and socialize. So how do you uncover member goals? Here are 2 tools that I want to know. Do any of you use these in your club meetings? And you can use the raise the hand feature, because I could see that enumerated more than just seeing your hands literally raised. So I see Eric's hand is raised. Thank you, Eric. This is the new, okay, there's a few more, perfect. The new member profile, this should be distributed and encouraged for all of your new members to use. This is how you capture what their leadership goals are, their communication goals are from the start. That gives you line of sight to how you can support them on an ongoing basis so that they remain engaged. And when you have this on file, you can always go back and refer to it and challenge your prospective or your new member. Your new member. I thought you said you wanted to focus on leadership goals. Here's an opportunity for you. Why don't you take Toastmaster of the Day or General Evaluator or whatever the role may be? We're having an open house. Would you like to be the Toastmaster of the day, or would you like to coordinate the open house, etc.? So give them opportunities to fill their own goals. Help them to get out of their own way, because some people will sign up for Toastmasters, they will enroll, they'll come to meetings, they'll sit back and relax. No, we don't want people to hide out amongst our CF members, but we want to help them become better. The other is the member interest survey. And I know when I was club president a few years ago, I used this to, again, create a pulse check. Are our members satisfied? Are they planning to renew? What are their goals? How are they seeing the meetings, the club operate? Because on page 2, there are some questions that pertain specifically to the club. So the front page are their personal goals and interests. Second page are an evaluation of the club. So that gave me insight into where we needed to improve or encouragement to keep doing what we're doing. Eric, you have another comment?
I don't. I think I didn't put my hand down from you asking us to rate.
No problem. How about you, Herb? If not, Mark, I see your hand in video 1.
Thanks, Rhonda. Yes, just one thing I wanted to say. This would have been a handy tool earlier this year. This year, we actually took a survey of club members, whether they were brand new or existing. And we were asking just to get a feel for things like, would you feel comfortable coming back to an in-person situation with a club? What prompted you to join Toastmasters? Even though we'd already been through that, we just wanted to kind of re-engage as people were coming back from COVID. So we sent out a survey, maybe 5-6 questions. And then the follow-up to that was, one of the questions was, would you like to meet with the VP of Education, who was me at the time still? And I set up phone calls with, I guess, whoever wanted to do it. I think it turned out to be about 6 or 7 people, just to get a feel. And I think most of them appreciated the fact of the extra step having the conversation and really trying to find their goals and saying, okay, what are your, what are your short-term goals? What are your longer-term goals? And trying to say, what do we need to do between now and say, this was like back in February, March. What do we need to do between now and the end of the year to get you to accomplish some of those things? How often would you feel comfortable speaking? How often would you feel comfortable taking a lead of the meeting? And then planning out for next year. So this, I think, would be a real handy thing and a time saver, but I think the extra step of doing the phone call was something that a lot of people appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. That's great. And some people like high touch. Some people like to receive a phone call.
Right.
Personally, I'm good with an email, but again, you have to meet your members where they are, where they respond the best. You have to talk their communication language. So Mark, I applaud you all for taking that extra step. And here's the thing, don't complete a survey or don't distribute a survey if you're not going to do something with the information.
Right.
Please, that is the worst thing in the world, because now anytime you ask questions, you ask for feedback, it's noise if you're not doing anything with it. But what I think Mark showed and with his club is that they went that extra step of calling people up also to engage them and ensure you're being heard, we're being responsive, we're taking action as a result of what we've been able to glean from you.
And it wasn't just the phone call, it was actually setting up the time in advance so that people knew that on this day for this amount of time we'll have this conversation. So I think they appreciated that as well.
Love that. Love that.
Thank you.
So if you wanted to access these tools, you can go to toastmasters.org. In the search bar, you can put in new member profile or member interest survey. They're available to everyone for download. So here's some ways, this is kind of the meat of what I wanted to get to in the 12 minutes that we have remaining, and hopefully we have spirited discussion as well as good chat comments. Like I said, I am so willing to append to this deck any creative, innovative ideas that you all have, because I believe that we should not have to reinvent the wheel. What works for one club may work for many other clubs. So let's talk about some of the actions to engage. So from a perspective of prospective members, let's start with the online channels. And hopefully many of you have attended the social media workshop that Hannah Mershon gave the training on. It was phenomenal. It talked about a lot of the various channels for social media. One thing
I can take it
like
out
to stress. One thing I like to stress with regard to social media and online channels is the fact that that is your calling card. I don't really do business, and I know I'm not alone. I don't do a lot of business with people I can't find online because I'll do the research first before I go to their brick and mortar, or I'll do the research first before I make a purchase or seek further information. So your online channel is your calling card. Is the information on your website or social media channels, is it up to date? Is it accurate? Does it reflect today, or does it have a date stamp of 2020? Right? If it's stale, if it's not vibrant, that doesn't make a first impression to potential guests. Do you have dynamic content? Are you refreshing the information on a regular basis? That's incredibly important as well. And this is one of the most important things. Are you responsive to inquiries? You have to be responsive. You can't let inquiries about your club meeting and dates, things like that, go dormant for weeks. That's a major turnoff. You will not create that pipeline of guests coming in. You won't be able to replenish your members. Meetings, are your meetings organized? And some of this it may sound, common. It may sound like a no-brainer, but think about it. Put yourself in a situation of someone who has no idea of how the meeting should be organized or run. Because you have that institutional knowledge, it's easy for you to follow along, but someone else from the outside looking in and experiencing it for the first time may not see it as being organized. Are you giving proper segues and transitions from section to section? Are you giving explanation about table topics? And that I'm picking table topics because this is where prospective members generally will participate. Are you telling them that it's 1 to 2 minutes and they have 30-second grace period? Are you telling them about the timing signals that you'll get the green at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5, red at 2 minutes? So those types of things are incredibly important. No, it's not an open house, but you can take the 20 extra seconds to tee up and explain how they can participate in table topics or each segment of your meeting, especially when you have lots of, or even few guests at your meeting. Are all of the roles filled? Do you have a good flow? These are things that you may have to work on. My club, we worked on this until we got into a very good rhythm of ensuring that the roles are filled prior to coming to the meeting. And even when we have to fill the roles ad hoc, most of our members will volunteer and step up for the sake of the meeting, our members, as well as our guests. Do you have constructive, supportive, supportive evaluations, or are you placating people? Are you giving them something to learn and to grow, right? Give them the positive, but also give them the feedback that will help them to improve. Again, people learn, myself included, by observation. You don't have to tell me, but I can hear you telling someone else something that could make them even more effective as a presenter, and I will learn from that. Provocative table topics. Ask guests to introduce themselves. Tell what brought them to Toastmasters. Invite them to join. Sometimes we don't get members because we're not asking, we're not inviting people to join. And also, as was mentioned, follow up after the meeting, whether it's a survey or just an email to say, I just wanted to follow up. Feel free to come back as often as you like. Here's information on membership. Eric, is that a high five or is that a comment?
I guess it's probably both. But just as a new president in the seat and just trying to figure out, coming out of COVID, I kind of got slid into the seat. The thing I really say helped for us quite a bit is your responsiveness to inquiries, and David hit on it as well. I've just spent the last 2 weeks diving headfirst into the resource library and downloading everything possible. And they've got great resources, and they've already done the emails for you. They prefabbed emails, and all you got to do is add your own club signature block to, hey, thank you for reaching out to us through the member portal, where they send you that email that says somebody's interested. There's already a response there, and there are attachments you can put on that response. And then it gives you a plan to say, if you didn't hear anything from that, send this email in 4 days. And then another one that says, send this one in 7 days. And then if somebody visits, also one to follow up behind them visiting. Because if folks, and that's the survey I got back from 2 folks that came and never came back again, was, well, I came, I had a good time. I didn't really hear anything. We only meet twice a month. I forgot about you because I came on the 4th Tuesday, and it was one of those 5-week months where it was 3 weeks before you guys met again. I kind of forgot about you. Nobody engaged me again. So I think the responsiveness to inquiries means something. And then that tailors to the follow-up after the meeting. And the last one I'll say is the organized piece. If we don't start on time and we don't end on time, coming out of COVID where everybody was on their own time and could do what they want, how they want, people still desire structure at the end of the day, whether or not they say they do or not. And if they see something that lacks structure within it, mostly start on time, end on time, then it has a lower turnaround rate for people wanting to come back.
Agreed. I wholeheartedly believe in time integrity. So let me just rock it. I have 5 minutes to get through a few more charts, and let's try to rock it through it. Time flies when you're having fun. So special events, be sure to invite your prospective members to your open houses, to your speech contests, to themed meetings. When you have a featured speaker or a topic that you think could benefit your prospective members, invite them out. So that's absolutely key. And provide a guest or prospective member packet. And that could be information we used to, in the old days, used to give out our old Toastmaster magazines along with some of the promotional flyers and information. But tailor that prospective members packet, whether it's hard copy or virtual, to anything you wish. But that's just as a way of being able to follow up with something concrete for prospective members. Actions to engage existing and former members, or I like to call, I should have put inactive members. I don't want to say former members, but host an officer induction and invite people to that, right? So it's not enough that people get elected into these roles in leadership, but also formally have an induction, formally have a new member induction. And Toastmasters do provide scripts for those two instances. Recognition is absolutely key. I learned early on in my career outside of Toastmasters as a manager that people want to be recognized. And I was like, for doing your job? Absolutely, because now I do see the value of being recognized myself and personally. So recognize the icebreaker, and as mentioned, through the icebreaker gum, icebreaker mints, we as the district distribute that icebreaker ribbon. So you would just have to go online, click the link, and provide us your information for your member who just completed their icebreaker. We believe in wholeheartedly recognizing this, their first step in Toastmasters. Recognize level completions, path completions. When someone has a triple crown, and that's when they have multiple level awards in one year, one Toastmasters year. The DTMs, if that was earned, that's certainly worth recognizing. And even if someone is taking a role in the club for the first time as timer or the table topics master, whatever it may be, recognize them, call it out during the meeting, post it on your social media, post it in your newsletter. And speaking of newsletter, have a newsletter, make it periodic, don't make it too frequent, but just enough to codify some of the accomplishments and some of the achievements of the club and members. Share DCP performance status. How many points have you earned this year? I've seen some clubs that are up to 3 points already, which is fantastic. So that gives inspiration and motivation to achieve the additional points. Have a mentoring program, have new member orientation, again, as David mentioned. Ask members to give educational topics, speak from the Better Speaker series or the Successful Club series. These are series with at least a dozen predetermined presentations each on varying topics that will help enable your leadership as well as your club membership. So Toastmasters does a lot of the work for us. It's just a matter of us leveraging, as Eric mentioned, leveraging those canned emails. Now you have these canned presentations that you can also edit yourself. Ask members to host special events, membership building activities, membership campaigns and drives and contests, speech contests. Also host a welcome back or welcome home for inactive members so that they feel that their absence was felt and they would be inclined to come back. Check member goals periodically and share that with them, and support member activities, whether they're in a speech contest or in their leadership roles, etc. Other actions to engage: post the word of the day online into your channels, post recorded speeches or speech evaluations or table topics. Again, people may get more insight because they may not know what Toastmasters is. This helps them to understand in a less pressure environment. Maybe they would be inclined to actually show up for your meeting, but also to remind members as well as those that may not have attended the meeting, here's our word of the day, incorporate it all week until it's a part of your vernacular. Distribute Toastmasters ribbons and Toastmasters pins. Use engaging flyers, images, and graphics. Don't use anything that's stale or text heavy. Mail the newsletter. My VP PR would mail the newsletter to us, and it was kind of nice to get something in the mail, something that looked very professionally done. My VP membership would mail treats for Valentine's Day and Halloween. Consider having of the year awards or superlatives. So Toastmaster of the year, speech evaluator of the year, or the person that had the most levels completed or most consecutive meeting attendance. just look for ways to celebrate people, in other words, and celebrate one another's successes outside of Toastmasters. And this was mentioned earlier, I think Tahira mentioned this. So when someone gets a new job, celebrate that, right? Because getting the new job may be a reflection of participating in Toastmasters, a marriage or relocation, things like that. And I wanted to give you some visuals on how we've been trying to practice what we preach. So recognizing and spotlighting our trainers. So you see that here, these are some of our trainers. Some of the other, I got this from some of the social media sites for some of the other clubs. Princeton says to wish their own Corrine and George good luck in the district speech contest. Again, this is supporting your club members, or when you have a special occasion, special speech. Lower right, we had one of our club members who was relocating. And then to the lower left, this was me giving a speech as a recorded speech for one of my club, We post the word of the day. This is my club, and this is another club, Independence Club. So those types of things will grab people's attention when they're researching, as well as if they miss a club meeting. And again, if there's some other ideas, please put them in chat. I see the chat looks like it's absolutely vibrant, which I'm very ecstatic for. So I wasn't able to read it all. I'm 2 minutes over. I'm violating my own rule about time integrity, but hopefully this was time well spent. I will save the chat, and you can, I believe you have the ability to save it too. So if there were any great ideas in there, feel free to incorporate those. With the few seconds or a few minutes that we have remaining, if there's any other questions or comments that you need to articulate, feel free to do so. Otherwise, please email me. So Eric, Tahira, I see your hands up. Do either of you want to articulate a comment or suggestion?
Rhonda, I just wanted to know what clubs that you're with in the email.
Oh, Voorhees Toastmasters Club.
Okay.
We
And
meet
the
on a
email-
weekly basis,
the email
Mondays.
address.
Okay, no problem. Eric, anything from you?
I think I accidentally still had my hand up,
Oh,
but
okay.
absolutely great presentation today. It was amazing.
Awesome, thank you. I want to give thanks to David. David, you were absolutely fantastic. It has been a pleasure co-presenting with you today. I love when there's good chemistry, and I think, again, our topics dovetail, but I think our presentation, our emphasis were truly, truly aligned. Hopefully you all got something out of this, and if you didn't, let me know. I see Young May is on the meeting. Young May, thank you so very much for being a supportive training coordinator. I don't know if you have a few words that you want to say to everyone. She is certainly a great team member for me. Is there any link we can use to fill in a form for credit? You don't have to fill out form for credit. I will take attendance from the Zoom attendance feature. So what I'll do, I should be able to do this today or tomorrow at the latest. I will update the training. Don't worry, you're here, so you'll get credit for today. I will update the TI website, and so that will be reflected in your DCP performance report. The district website may be updated tomorrow. I have to provide the information to the webmaster, but that should be updated within the next day or two as well. Are there any other questions? You will get a survey after this. Kindly be kind with your feedback. I can take constructive feedback, but just put a little sugar on it, please. And we will take in all of the feedback that we have been receiving, and we will try to do better. We will try to meet your needs the way you want to be trained, and especially the topics you want trained. So feel free to include any suggestions for topics, whether it's today or over time before we get to the next training period. If something comes up that you really want some more training on, it's probably applicable across the board. So feel free to let us know. Let us know how we can support you all. David, any final comments from you as our first presenter?
No, thank you, Rhonda, for contributing, participating, and also arm twisting me very gently to do this presentation with you tonight. It was an honor and a pleasure, really. And the participation of some 55 or 60 members of various clubs throughout our district is heartwarming. Again, what we all do is not only for ourselves to improve our public speaking and our leadership skills, but it's for everyone else in our club and by extension in society. If we become more effective, more sympathetic, more constructive, that's how we can behave on the outside as well and make our society better for it. Toastmasters does not stop at the end of a meeting. Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you all.
Thank you, David.